counselor. My job was to be a consistent presence in their life, to treat them with respect in lieu of the fact that they're not used to that, to encourage them to like themselves because they didn't value themselves enough to make good decisions for themselves. They weren't necessarily brought up that way. But not to feel sorry for them and not to make excuses for them, but also to recognize that perhaps they don't think there's a problem with it because of where they came from.
Sure.
You know, so it's like, you know, when you say
so everybody in my house does this, what's wrong with it?
some right, some people come here for this and some people come here for that. Some people are placed here. And I used to say to them, if you don't choose a place for yourself in our society, society will place you somewhere to go. And meaning that you'll catch a case and you'll go to jail or whatever the case might be. But, you know, that's what I'm alluding to when we're on the radio and there's different people at different points in their lives. People that never picked up a drug might still identify with what we're talking about because we're trying, you know, like we're trying to take our life experience and whatever information we can and put it out there to the masses so that anyone can digest it, so that anyone can relate to it. Like bereavement, you know, unfortunately, Smitty, he walked out of the room for a minute, but there was a lot of death, you know, unfortunately, which is a fact of life. Exactly.
Yes.
There is people out there right now, because it happens every minute of every day, that might not be opting to use drugs, might be perfectly functioning members of society, but because that is punching them in the chest and knocking the wind out of them.
That's right.
Just hearing somebody talk about it in general allows them to feel less alone, you know?
And you know what I notice with myself sometimes, right? I suffer from a general negative outlook on life. You know what I mean? So sometimes when things happen to me, I go like right over the edge with it, you know what I mean? Because everything's like a catastrophe, right? Like everything's like a big issue, you know what I mean? And you know, and like what we were just saying about the not being alone part, that's what helps me, you know, have a better understanding, right? Like I have a guy in my life, great guy, love him to death, love him like a brother. You know what I mean? He's got some stuff going on, and I tell him like real simple all the time, like all right, so like my biggest, all right, so unresolved issues are stumbling blocks for me, right? And I try to resolve my issues, whatever, financial, you know, physical, mental, whatever they are. I try to handle my issues, right? And I always tell people the same thing, right? Like you need to handle that issue before that issue handles you. You know what I mean? And that's what happens. And I see it in people. I see people come in and handle their issues and get better with it and go on to the next issue, right? Because there's always another issue. You know what I mean?
How is that? There's always another. It's like paying the bills. Well, the rent's due. I just paid it last month.
Right? It just never stops coming. It never stops coming. You know, every time I feel like,
are you kidding me?
Every time I feel like I got a lock on something, either something else shows up or I realize how much of a lock I don't have on that issue.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'll refer to my father as an example, right? I mean, this man died 26 years ago. I'm 32. I was 6 at the time. You know what I mean? And there's something throughout the course of the day that boom, I'll just like, you know, get resentful. All those issues that I thought the resentfulness, the anger, you know, whatever other word I'm looking for. But it comes back, and then it goes, and then it comes back, and then it goes.
Yeah, it'll probably never go away, but the intensity of it, and the duration of it, it gets, you know, the intensity gets less, and the duration gets shorter.
Right. And again, I'm just using that as an example.
And I wanted to ask you, what do you recognize about yourself?
As far, what do you mean?
Well, what we were talking about before about points of reference, we'll say, okay? Because, like, when something happens now, like this week was not a good week for me. A lot of things had happened. It was like an emotional roller coaster. But I can still feel good about the fact that I cope with it better than I used to.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Chris, I thank you for sharing. That's what I found out this week. That I would go nuts mentally in my head. I wouldn't allow you to know that, but I would be crazy about the things I went through 3 major things this week that would have drove me nuts. I wouldn't have even been here. I wouldn't have been able to come here because I would have been all over the place in my head. And I was great for hiding that. You know, so I didn't want Charles to know. So I grew up in an era where we hid. When I used drugs, it was always about hold your head. And anyone that doesn't know what that term means, that never let someone see how bad it might be with you.
Right.
So I always was holding my head. You know, I was always never let you see me sweat, never make you feel as though there's some problem with me, and that's a character.
We don't show no weakness.
No, and that's a character flaw of mine, really, because then I won't let you know at times.
Mm-hmm. We can't help you unless you let us know.
Yes, and sometimes I won't have the ability to get out of that unless
I'd like to testify about something in recovery. You know, I'm thinking I'm recovering and doing good and all that, and which may seem like that on the exterior, but you know, I went somewhere. You know, I go to somewhere consistently on Sundays, and a person was speaking, and they had a microphone in their hand. They were walking around, intensively, and the person said, "Some of y'all claiming people that ain't even y'all's."
Wow.
And then the next day, I got a letter from I shared,
I remember you shared about that.
And I got a letter from the IRS the next day saying, "Guess what, Mr. Harris, you owe X, Y, Z." And my significant other was like, she, and being the addict that I am, I paid somebody to try to, fool the IRS again. Mm. And then, my significant other found, this is a testimony, by the way,
on the radio,
in recovery, on the radio, right? And, I paid somebody and I try to, and the flim flam, and my significant other found out about it, and of course she's going to have an attitude. You got to get out. You got to. Meanwhile, I still have that money from 2009. I'm like, all right, I got a bright idea. You said I got to get out. You're going to call the cops. You're going to do this and that. So I got out. She goes to work Saturday mornings. So one Saturday morning, all right, have a nice day. See you. I had everything packed up already, and I was gone. I was gone. Running in recovery. I'm testifying right now. Sorry about that.
Don't blow my ear.
Right. So I ran to Queens and paying a lot of, the birds, the chirp, everything's beautiful. I don't know nobody out there really, but I had to run. I didn't want to pay the, I didn't put them on step. I mean the eighth. You know what I'm talking about. I ain't put them on that.
You talking about making amends?
Yeah. I wasn't willing to do that with those guys, so
everybody else but them.
Everybody. Well, almost everybody. But anyway, so all right, so I'm feeling a type of way. I'm like, because I'm supposed to be in recovery, so I got some feelings like, man, I ran away and left her with all the bills and this and that. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? And I'm going back on the weekends to over there to the hole. Mm-hmm. Where I ran from in the first place, to run from the IRS, and we're having a long distance Yonkers Queens relationship, and it's insanity in recovery because I live in Queens, work in Harlem, and I'm going to Yonkers on the weekend just to come all the way back to Queens.
So what'd you do with that?
So what I did was, I called my accountability partner, told him about it, called a couple of other people that's in my profession, outside of my profession, and I said, I'm coming back.
What do you think I should do about this? And what did they tell you?
They said, you should face the music.
Right.
Yeah. Throw it instead of around it.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
you probably wasted half of that money going back and forth from Queens to Yonkers. You could have paid.
And guess what? Like, I remember when, just to piece this on to what my testimony, Johnny, is I remember being in active addiction that every time I got some check that, or some financial blessing, I'm like, God is good. God is good. Y'all relate? Can I get an amen? Amen. God is good. But guess what? God is real good that I made a quick financial amends with the IRS, and they was able to work with me and not take that's a blessing. That's some big boy stuff, Blaze.
Well, I always say
we're doing big boy stuff.
God respects willingness. You know what I mean? When we show the willingness, He will turn a lot of times the situation to work.
One of the best things I've heard in here on this radio station is like, God, you do the possible, let God do the impossible.
Wow.
He does them, that's it.
That is the bomb.
If you see the invisible,
there's a reality.
If I could do it, then I don't need Him to do it.
There's there's more than one way to look at something, different perspectives, and then there's reality in the middle.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Hey, Rich, what did I say on Facebook? You said you liked it. If you change the way you look at something, the way you look at something changes, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember, you gave me a like on that. Look, follow me at Facebook.com/BibleKid, man. Come on, man.
But what I wanted to say, is that, children are a gift. We're at where we're at when we're active, and there's certain things that we're not responsible for, in the sense that because, we're working with damaged goods and we're not making good decisions for whatever reason, it's not like we will these things on ourselves. I didn't aspire to be a homeless junkie at 30 when I started drinking at 13. That was not the case. But a lot of things that happen, and then we pull our head out of the sand in recovery, and it's like, oh wow, look at this, and then we're presented with choices. And the reality is,
all the time, before you head out of the sand, that's exactly what it's like.
That's a jewel. Thanks, Chris. That's a jewel.
And children are a gift. There's people that want to have kids and will not.
That's right.
That God, for whatever reason, and I'm not gonna allude to the fact that He has a magic wand or anything like that, but I'm grateful that I have my son. I'm grateful that I almost hate to mention it, but it's a reality that there are no issues that as far as the obvious, like the physical and the mental and the things that our society would say, oh well, you're not exactly like everybody else. That's the most polite way I could put it. You know what I mean?
Thank God I'm not like everybody else.
I'm talking about like birth defects and stuff when it comes to children, and I'm really grateful. I don't have to, you know what I'm saying? And then, we're in recovery, and I'm congratulations to you and congratulations to you, to rise up,
right.
because God didn't give us kids by accident.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I know that because I can look at it from someone else's perspective and say, I wish, there's people that didn't do what I did majority of their lives, probably were much more deserving, and won't have that blessing in their life.
Right.
And for whatever reason, it's part of my journey, that God says, you have a son, and whoever it is. And there's a lot of lack of, like, personal responsibility when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I know for myself, when I was disabled, forced me, in lieu of any fears that I had, because I dropped out of school, and I've talked about this, and John was talking about learning disabilities and everything else, to go back to school and be a counselor. And it was like, they say one doorway closes, another one opens, but the hallway is real uncomfortable.
That's a jewel.
And it was
listen up, people.
It was a journey. But what I can say is, because I rose up, because and why? Why? Not because I'm Superman, because I woke up.
Right.
God woke me up, so I rose up. It was either I sit on the stoop and cry about my life, and nothing changes,
right,
or do the things that are hard that look like, God said, this is no longer an option, but
right.
this is.
This ain't working. You gotta try something else.
Exactly correct. It's about change and evolution, and then I had an experience working with the kids. And even to the point where I was shown how a lot of things that I endured that we were talking about, that you went through, Smitty, when you were a kid, became useful in helping others. Because as if God had said, okay, you went through those things, but you see now, at this point in your life, this is part of the plan, in the sense that because you're willing to do the things that are hard for you now,
right,
I'm going to put you in a place. I can't put you there if you don't do the things that are hard for you now. If you continue to slip shot and take shortcuts, you can't get there. But if you're willing to do the work, I can put you there, and you will have the revelation, this is my personal story, I will have the revelation that the things that you went through when you were a kid serve a very meaningful purpose. It wasn't an accident. You weren't like chosen to suffer. You're not a cursed soul. Right. But the fact that you're now, because I can come to terms with my own pain. My open heart allowed me to have empathy towards these kids that a lot of my colleagues were like, that kid's terrible. You can't work with that kid. He doesn't want any help. And I could understand. He's hurting. He's really hurting. Sure. He can't communicate. He doesn't trust anybody. He's closed. He's disrespectful because he has walls. It's not up to me to judge and be another adult in his life that says, you're no good. That's not true. It's not true that you were born and you're no good. When you were an infant, you were good. You were innocent. You know, there's, nurture nature where we come from.
Not Chris. Not one of us is good. Not one of us is good.
Quote scripture?
I'm gonna have to, because not one of us is. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna tell you we're perfect. Yeah, you good. I hear you good. I ain't good. I'm trying to practice.
I believe that we're all good. What we're sharing, I believe that we're good.
Yeah, no, we good sharing. We some good sharing people. Oh, we some. Don't stop that. We some good sharing people.
The walk is real.
You know what? Like Chris was talking about, God put some kids in my life. Are they biologically mine? No. But you know what? I learn from them every day.
There you go.
And you know what? I learned to put my guard down. I got the worst. You're a singer. I got the worst vocals. I can't sing. You know what? Me and my daughter do it all day long. I was driving somewhere, we're singing in the car, because my daughter will sing and dance from the time she wakes up to the time she goes to bed. She's so happy. And that's what she does. And
I wish I could do that.
We
man.
could, yeah. Well,
and what is the choice that you make?
Yeah, because I can let my guard down. I don't have to.
Before that,
I don't have to care how good I sound. And I could just be myself and have a ball. But before, I could never do that. I'd be like, I wouldn't look cool,
That,
because I can't sing good.
That, or you could be the type of individual who was just completely self-centered and not able to even see that the kids are there.
Right.
And that they could offer you, you know what I'm saying? Not that we expect anything from them, but that they could richen your life.
Yeah.
Well,
I asked God, even the bad people. I mean, I got really good people in my life. But when God put somebody that's, like you said, somebody that's not behaving the way that normal people do. Somebody that's going against the grain and they're cursing and this and that. I asked God, well, why did you put this person in my life? There's a reason.
Right.
If I firmly believe that God put you people in my life to help me to get to where I'm at, why, God put Richie in my life? Why God put you people in my life? If I believe that He put them good people, then when somebody bad is put in my path that I have to deal with on it, then I have to work with somebody that's, they are who they are. And then I asked God, why did you put this person in my life? Is it to test my patience? Is it to let me know to be humble, to test my patience? Is it to understand that maybe that person's really hurting? You know what I found? Because most people, other people will,
I don't know. In the moment, it'll mean one thing, and a year from now, I'll look back and say, "Oh no, this is what it meant."
No, but a lot of times, you know what?
I haven't had a spiritual awakening.
A lot of times that when somebody is like that, I'll just turn a deaf ear to them, and if they go one way, I go the other way. And sometimes, you know what? You just need to listen, and when they're doing that banter thing, you need to listen, and if they're complaining about this or that, and they're trying to tell you that they're in pain. But or sometimes they just need to somebody, when nobody, a lot of times it's just that when they need the attention. When everybody's around, they want to F this and curse and act a fool. When you put them on the side by themselves and say, you okay? You all right? And they could, talk to somebody. We got people to talk to. We got people that we trust. We got people that we can confide in. A lot of people on the outside don't have that.
But in reality,
so if I get a dude and I'm like, hey, are you all right, man? Talk to me.
Yeah.
And you see that weight come off of their shoulders like I was talking about. Okay, I can talk to somebody.
And I don't think that. I think sometimes for me it's just someone just listen and they catch eye contact with me and they care about what I'm saying. And then if they take it and they show a sense of empathy with me, that really makes me real relaxed. And I'm like, all right, I could tell Charles a little more. Mm-hmm. I don't encounter that with everyone. But there's people I could, I can feel it. I don't have to see it, but I can feel that you care, and what happens to me, and that hits me harder. I can recognize that a lot quicker these days than in the past. And then when I do it to someone, I can feel it when we're together, and I can feel it. It's just something that I can't explain it in words. I know.
You click. You just click with it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I care, man. What happened to you? I told him. I met a homeless young guy, 20 years old.
Hold on one second.
I met a young guy.